Congressman Lee Zeldin serves on the Foreign Affairs Committee and is the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Oversight. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
It's good to be with you.
All right. So listen, of course, you know it happened by way of formal letter. You've got Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, Elijah Cummings, and Eliot Engel. They have asked Secretary of State Pompeo for 6 categories of documents, quote, related to reported efforts by President Trump and his associates to improperly pressure the Ukrainian government to assist the president's bid for re-election, adding your failure or refusal to comply with the subpoena shall constitute evidence of obstruction of the House's impeachment inquiry. So, Congressman, I ask you, Secretary of State has until next Friday, October 4th, to comply. Can he avoid submitting the requested documents by claiming executive privilege or jeopardy to national security? I mean, after all, House Intelligence is one of the leading committees on this phase of the inquiry.
I think it depends on the individual fact or piece of evidence that is being requested. In this particular situation, we are rushing so quickly towards as early as a November impeachment vote in the House of Representatives that you're going to have a lot of questions asked where, quite frankly, they're just dead ends. So the Secretary isn't going to have to assert.
They're trying to get the information from the Secretary of State, and they're being very specific about what they're requesting. So that's what I'm asking. Can the Secretary of State avoid this in any way by claiming executive privilege or saying that, listen, this information, should I provide it to you, although House Intelligence is one of the leading committees, should I provide this to you, then it's going to jeopardize national security. Will that fly?
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be part of the process. So if you request something that is classified, there is a process to provide that information. If they request something that is subject to executive privilege, that is a factor. So for the administration to want to be responsive, knowing that so much of what's being asked are dead ends, they're going to have to work through that process. Will it fly? You know, sure. I mean, we understand that executive privilege is part of the process as well as the classification for the House Democrats. Nothing will fly short of providing them with facts and evidence. And they're not going to want to wait a minute. I mean, just take earlier this week. Remember, they announced that they were launching this impeachment inquiry before they had even read the whistleblower
I want to move forward,
only knowing that it was
Congressman, because the chairman trio, if you will, also informed Secretary Pompeo that they have scheduled depositions for 5 State Department officials related to the inquiry. So does this put additional pressure on Secretary Pompeo to be as forthright as possible, since other State Department officials will also provide information to the committees?
I have zero doubt that Secretary Pompeo is going to want to cooperate. I'm confident from everything I know that he has absolutely nothing to hide. So transparency is the right strategy for the administration, and I'm not aware of any information to contradict that.
Okay, and then, as you know, we're here to report that over the next 2 weeks, the committees will depose 5 other State Department officials, including Deputy Chief of Mission at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine, John Volker, who resigned abruptly yesterday, and he is now a private citizen with more freedom. Excuse me, it's Kurt Volker. I beg your pardon. He resigned yesterday, Friday, and he now has more freedom to answer all questions asked. So what is the potential impact in that?
I would encourage anyone who's coming forth before the committee, whether you are a member of the government or a private citizen, to just provide honest answers. As you referenced, I'm the ranking member of the Oversight and Investigations Subcommittee, and I believe, just from everything that I've read so far and aware of some of the questions that are going to be asked, that the best thing for Mr. Volker to do and for others to do is just to come before the committee and to be completely honest. If there's something that has a classification issue, let's work through it. If there's something that has an executive privilege issue, let's work through it. But getting answers, that's what's most important. I would encourage the House Democratic colleagues to also wait and actually read the information, because they have already formed their judgments and their strategy. They already know what they want to get to, but they don't have the facts or the evidence. They haven't even announced what the charge is.
Based on the information that you've read, Congressman, do you find anything in either the whistleblower's complaint, which has been deemed credible by the Inspector General, and so you have the phone call, at least the summary of the phone call that the White House gave the press. Is there anything in any of that information that has now been put out in the public that concerns you and that you deem that should be looked further into?
Nothing that is impeachable.
I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask you if it's impeachable. Does anything concern you as it pertains to the national security of the United States of America, or perhaps putting the President of the United States of America in jeopardy by way of potential blackmail?
No, I don't. I do. I mean, there are things that are listed inside of the whistleblower complaint that Congress, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, regardless of whether you support the president or don't, can ask follow-up questions. And I would imagine, as we're starting to see, there are questions that are going to be asked. Unfortunately, credibility, good faith is part of this process as well. And when the committee has the responsibility, for example, of asking questions to the Director of National Intelligence, and your opening statement is misquoting the President of the United States on many different things that are not in the whistleblower complaint, you start questioning credibility and good faith. So I, in good faith, am answering your question.
Sure. And listen, I understand. Listen, there's politics involved, and of course you're going to have both sides presenting the information as they would like it to be seen. However, facts are facts. Meanwhile, let's move over to here, and that is Mr. Rudy Giuliani. He is the personal attorney for President Trump, and he's claiming that all of his dealings with the Ukrainian government officials was at the direction or request and approval of the State Department. So does this put pressure on Secretary Pompeo to speak up, refute Mr. Giuliani's allegations, and clear his name, the Secretary's reputation?
I think that is one of the questions that are being asked that is a fair question to ask that should get an honest answer in response. I don't doubt that the Secretary is going to provide that answer, and I'm confident he has nothing to hide. But it's a question to be asked: what exactly was the mayor's role? That's a question that if my colleagues want to ask, that's fine. I've had some concerns. Again, double standards are greatly of concern to me. I've seen it play out all throughout this entire year. So if you have no problem with, for example, John Kerry talking to Zarif and Rouhani and undermining the president on the Iran nuclear deal, but you have a problem with private citizen Rudy Giuliani and his role here, that's fine.
Well, there are two different things there. First of all, you have private citizen Giuliani we're not sure if he has security clearance or not, and then you have a former Secretary of State. But let's move on to this. Speaker Pelosi is tasking these three particular committees, Intelligence, Oversight, and Foreign Affairs, with overseeing the initial phase of the impeachment inquiry. What do you think these committees most likely will hone in on, and what does it tell you about the direction of the inquiry?
They're just trying to find anything to come up with any type of a charge in order to impeach the president. They want to skip over any criticism or censuring and go straight to impeachment. The problem is that they don't know what to charge the president with. They don't know what their facts are to support that charge. They don't know what their evidence is to support that charge. What are these three committees going to own in on? It's going to be trying to find absolutely anything to take down a sitting president. It is going to be, I mean, and it's embarrassing because if they receive word that there is some kind of information they don't yet have, they are then going to go public with a conclusion based off something that they haven't read, that isn't yet before the committee. So the process, they're way ahead of their skis here. They need to take a step back and deliberately, with care and caution, if they have a question, then ask the question, get a response. But this isn't with good faith. This isn't with credibility. Well, and as Adam Schiff called his opening statement a parody, this entire impeachment inquiry
you make some really good points, Congressman, because Speaker Pelosi did push back on her caucus for a long time, and she apparently waited till she felt like she had something that she could hang this inquiry on. But listen, it's very early in the process. We'll see what happens, and I appreciate your coming on, and I'm sure we'll have you on again, Congressman Zeldin. Thank you so much.
Look forward to it. Take care.
Take care.